The amazing Bill Bryson about his brilliant book called The Body, A Guide for Occupants. Now, it's so. In the end, your book is it's many pages. It's close to 400 pages long, but it's so easy to read. Now, we all know that if you know a subject inside out, then you should be able to explain the most complex aspect of that subject to a 6-year-old by deconstructing and then reconstructing and distilling that information. But you're not, this is not what you do for a living. You write for a living, but this is not, you don't study physiology for a living.
Well, what I do for a living
So how did you do it?
The line I take is I just am professionally ignorant.
Right.
And I take a subject I know nothing about, and I just try and find out. I try and understand it. And in some ways that's a real advantage, because unlike a scientist, I have this infinite capacity to be amazed by what I hear. A lot of the scientists I interview, they're a little bit jaded by the subjects they're dealing with because they spent their whole lives doing it.
They're no longer fascinated by it.
Well, they kind of lose the magic of it. It just seems ordinary to them. Whereas to me, almost everything I put in the book, when I read this or learned it from an interview, I just thought, this is amazing. Why didn't they teach me this in school? I would have paid a lot more attention if I'd known some of these things.
I know. But teachers have it tough anyway. Basically, they look after our children for 15 years and try and teach them something in between. There is that, I suppose. So the lady that you met, who is an expert on skin, what she says about the first layer of skin and the different colours that skin can be was an absolute revelation. We read it out today verbatim. Just take us through that, if you don't mind.
It's very simple. That your colour, your race, which is everybody in the world judges you by, is 1 millimetre depth. If you took off the outer millimetre of your skin, which is obviously practically nothing, nobody could tell. The greatest scientists in the world couldn't tell what race you are. Couldn't tell whether you were black or white or Asian or whatever.
It says here, it is extraordinary how much, she says this, the lady you're talking about, it's extraordinary how much such a small facet of our composition is given so much importance. People act as if skin colour is a determinant of character when all it is a reaction to sunlight. Biologically, there is actually no such thing as race. Nothing in terms of skin colour, facial features, hair type, bone structure or anything else that is a defining quality among peoples. And yet look how many people have been enslaved or hated or lynched or deprived of fundamental rights through history because of the colour of their skin. I mean, that is revelatory. To me, that's revelatory.
Well, it was to me. That's why it's in the book.
It's brilliant.
Yeah, no, I think it was. In a dissecting room, a doctor showed me how much a millimetre of skin is, and just sort of lifted a little patch of skin back off this cadaver, and you could see light through it. I mean, it's almost transparent. That's how little, that's how a little of you is race, whatever your skin colour is.
One of the reasons you wrote this, you're fascinated. You are of an age where you are you've observed a lot, and now you're reflecting a bit more than observing, and then you're researching probably more than you've ever done in the last couple of books, the last 3 books at least, that you've written. This is because you discovered you had an extra kidney. You didn't know.
No, I have a missing kidney.
Sorry, you don't have 3. Nobody has 3. Many people have 1.
Somebody may, I don't know. But no, what happened was I was sent for an MRI scan.
Right.
For something in my heart, which turned out to be nothing, I'm pleased to say. And they discovered in passing, just entirely by accident, that I only have 1 kidney. I was only born with 1 kidney. It happens fairly often. They think it's about 1 in 100, but they've no idea really, because they don't go and look at everybody, And the fact is that anybody, any of your listeners might only have 1 kidney. If they've never had a scan, they wouldn't know. So about 1 in every 100 of us goes through life with 1 kidney, not knowing it. But making that discovery really drove home to me that you do have no idea what's inside you, and that was the spur to me to try to understand a little bit better about how we're put together.
All right, in the papers yesterday and today, there's this global drugs shortage. They're saying this is legal drugs, global drug shortage, because the perfect storm in the hindrance of drug production, but also because demand is so high. Then you talk about America, who are the most obese nation in the world, closely followed by Chile, but we're right up there in the top 10. France, 49% of French people are clinically obese as well. Maybe what we should do to get fitter, but then of course we are being told the best thing that you could do for the climate is have less children in the future, for your children in the future. And then you end the book with a chapter called The End, which I love. I think you wrote this book just so you could have a chapter called The End, because you've had so many The Ends in your life. This is the ultimate The End. But you talk about that French lady who smoked and drank till she was 115. She gave up 7 years before she died at the age of 122. And all drinkers and smokers cite her at some time in their life as some kind of mitigation as why they might be able to carry on. But of course, living longer is also a problem, even though we are ignorantly fascinated by it, and there's this continuing sort of climb to the top of Everest and beyond of medical research that just wants to get us to live long for no reason that may be good for us.
Yeah, it's a real problem because, medical science can keep you going longer and longer and longer. And, it would be irresponsible to withhold treatments from people just because they're old. But at the same time, what we're doing is a lot of people who really have lost have lost
a reason.
The reason to live.
Yeah.
They may be very confused. They may be completely demented. They may be in a lot of pain. They may be suffering mightily. We can still keep them alive. You can keep the human body going. But the question is it always worth it? And it's an impossible thing to answer because you can't just euthanize people. That would be cruel and heartless. But at the same time, it's kind of cruel and heartless to keep them alive when there's no quality of life.
My mum died last year, and the most striking thing about her passing was she told me she was frightened, right? Because it took her quite a while to pass away, and she was frightened. She didn't want to be frightened. She was frightened of dying, but petrified, and it was only around the corner, and that is another reason that people don't want to hang around. I don't want to be frightened for the last. I've had a wonderful time, thank God. I don't want to be frightened for the last month or 2 months of my life, and then at the end of it, die anyway.
Yeah, that's the terrible thing about almost all deaths, because most people nowadays, we used to just die suddenly. We used to have heart attacks.
You used to be really good at it.
Or you get pneumonia, and you would die quickly and kind of painlessly. Now increasingly humans suffer lingering deaths, and that is a worry. Nobody wants to spend 2 years dying, and yet because of medical treatments, it's increasingly possible to do that.
All right. Every chapter in this book is absolute solid gold. A couple of quickies before you go, Bill, because now you've got to go. It isn't true, is it, that our hair and our nails grow after we are deceased? That is not true. That is a myth. I know. It's great pub ammo, but it is rubbish pub ammo.
My hair is barely growing now. But, after you die, that's true. Almost all of the things that we all know, that we all feel we know about the body, turn out to be myths. The idea that you only use 10% of your brain, complete myth. The idea that the average man thinks about sex every 7 seconds, complete myth.
Is it less than that?
More than that.
They did a careful study and they found that people don't think about sex all that often at all. Just all that kind of stuff is mostly myths. Things that you think you know because you've been hearing them all your life, mostly are myths.
And you've been myth-busting in your book. What was your favourite bit of it?
I think the most amazing fact I learned was to do with the brain. The brain is the most wondrous creation in the universe. And I think the single most amazing fact to me in the book was that if you took 1 cubic millimeter of your brain, which is about the size of a grain of sand, there's enough processing power in that tiny grain of sand of your brain to hold all the movies ever made.
Oh, that's good.
Isn't that amazing?
And also, and scientists, having said that, scientists still can't find a thought.
No, yeah. Well,
we have them, but we don't know where they come from, and we don't know where they are.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Scientists, so they can examine the brain. They can have brains. They can be gifted brains for research, but they can't find a thought.
That's right. Yeah.
I love that, and I also loved you're talking about water. So your H2O, you got your hydrogen, your oxygen. You got 2 parts hydrogen to 1 part oxygen. Hydrogen and oxygen are basically weightless. Put together, they can weigh billions of tons.
Yeah, well, as I say in the book, if you've ever just tried to move a paddling pool full of water or carry a couple of buckets of water is really heavy, and yet it's made of these two, as you say, really, really light elements.
Okay, great book, Bill.
Thank you very much,
Great
Chris.
to see
It's
you,
been a
as
pleasure.
always. Oh, my goodness me. Bill Bryson, The book is out today.
The Chris Evans Breakfast Show with Sky.